Hi again, Andy here to talk some more about using SolidWorks for doing engineering and CAD design. The last few videos that I showed, videos 1 through 8, went through the process of designing a simple mechanical part and showed you some of the basic tools that you'll encounter. Now, one of the things you'll learn when you get to become familiar with a tool like SolidWorks or any other CAD tool is that there's many ways to model the same part. Some ways are easier, some ways are harder, but really you can almost always get there through multiple different approaches. What I showed you in the previous videos was extruding parts in a linear fashion. I'm going to do a couple of short videos now to show you how to use some different ways to model similar parts. The parts I'm going to show you will be slightly different, but I want you to see the range of things that you can do. Once you become familiar with the whole approach, then it gets to be a lot easier and you can really try anything. The key is that I've shown you already, if you go back to the previous videos, the power of having that design tree and being able to go back in history to actually fix or change things that you've done. So hopefully, if you haven't looked at all the previous videos and you've tried that example, you'll do that now. But in the meantime, let's try a couple of other ways to model parts. Okay, so here we are in the regular SolidWorks starting window, and I'm going to start with a new part. Although this happens sometimes, it's stuck. There we go. Starting with a part. And we're back to the normal, rather complicated SolidWorks working window. So I'm going back to, since I'm starting totally from scratch, I'm going to make the front plane visible again, as I showed you in a previous video. And now we've got the front plane, and I'm going to create a sketch. This time, I'm going to create a sketch of a cross-section of something that I'm going to revolve rather than extrude. I'll show you. So I'm picking the front plane, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. You've already seen from the previous videos, starting with a sketch like this, we can then add dimensions. In this case, let's add a dimension here. I want that to be 40 millimeters. And we'll make this, let's say 120. Now I can center that view using the tool up at the top. And let's leave it at that for now. There we go. So we've got that first sketch. Now if I'm still in sketch mode, you can see up in the upper left that the sketch tools are active. And in fact, I have selected this sketch. If I click the mouse anywhere else, that sketch is unselected. But if I want to select that sketch like so, I can go over to features. And you'll see in past we used this extruded boss base tool. Let's try the revolved boss base tool and see how different that is. It opens up similar to before. One of the things that it shows us in the dialog box on the left is this first thing, which is an axis of revolution. And if I pick that axis of revolution, then what it's showing me now is it's created a cylinder. Now, I've created it using these direction tools, and it was default to 360 degrees, but let's say I make it smaller than that. Let's say I make it 30 degrees. Then I get a pie slice. So I can make round things using this revolve extrusion, revolve boss. I'm going to go back to making that 360. And I'm going to accept it, And there, now I have nothing more complicated than a cylinder. Now, just as with the previous tools that we worked with, if I go back to the sketch, I can go back and edit the sketch in context. And let's suppose I want to do something fancy with it. I want to make the side not a straight line. Now, there's other sketching tools here. I'm just going to pick a line, and I'm going to draw down and over and down, let's say. And it still wants to draw another line, so if at the end of my drawing those lines I just select escape, it won't draw any more lines. Now if I try to exit this, it's a bit confused because it still thinks that I have this original square that I'm going to be extruding, and if I just simply accept this, nothing will happen. But you'll see up at the upper toolbar in Sketch this thing called Trim Entities. There's two things you can do. You can trim or you can extend. Trim is a really useful tool, and if you, let's say we want to get rid of this line and make the actual shape we're going to revolve just this skinny waisted thing. So if I take my mouse over here to the right of the part and I hold down the left mouse button with my index finger and I just simply draw a line across one of the lines that I want to get rid of, then SolidWorks knows that it eliminates that line between the parts. And I clicked accept, and now I've got this new part. And if I go out of that, you see instantly the revolve piece has now changed, instead of being just a simple cylinder to be this interesting looking shape. I could do more than that. I could go back in and edit that part. Maybe I want to put in some dimensions. I originally set up this as 40 millimeters here. I could add a dimension from this line to the center, and let's say I want to make that 15. So now it's gotten to be quite small, and you can see the original part has disappeared on me. Don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. And maybe I don't necessarily want this to look the way I have it. Rather, what I'd like to do is have a dimension from there to there and make that 5. But in reality, let's not do this kind of a part. Let's make something that actually is skinnier at the bottom. Oops. Now I should be able to move this point. If I select it, I should be able to move it, but it won't let me. And with any time you're working in a sketch like that and you're not able to actually move a point around, if you select the point, you can see that the relations that it is associated with are present. And here, some distance measurement is there. I don't know if that distance measurement is the 5 I just entered or not, but I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to try to delete it. Or I'm not. So it's not letting me delete it. I wonder why. So the point won't move. The point's connected to this line, and if you look at this line, it also has relations. It's got horizontal 3, which we could highlight, and we can see that that's simply saying that that line is a horizontal line, and it's got distance 8. And it won't let me do anything with that either. So moving that line around is clearly a problem. So one way to get away from that problem is just simply delete it. And it's associated with some dimensions, so I got rid of it. Oh, there's the problem. It's associated with that 120. it depends upon where I selected. There, if I click that, I'm going to delete that dimension. And now, it lets me move to that point. So it's often frustrating if you just keep pounding away at the same thing when you're working in modifying things in SolidWorks, but it does try to communicate with you some reason and logic. And if you look around, you'll start to see why things aren't working or why it won't let you do something. But there we have it. So we've got a part now. I deleted some of these dimensions. I'm going to add them back again. So I want the distance from this point to this point to be something 5. Now if I move it around, I could define the linear nearest distance. I could define the horizontal distance and move it around in there. I want to define the vertical distance. The other thing I'd like to do is maybe define this distance from this point up to this point. And I'd like to make that a little bit steeper. So I'm going to move that point up. I'm going to say that's 20. And there we have a new shape. So what I've created is a revolved shape using some of the editing tools. And with that, I will save this as a new part. Call it that. And now I can use that in other places too.